Hi, Michael here. In this video, I want to talk about 3 mistakes that can really hold you back when trying to learn to code. The worst thing about these mistakes is that you may not even know that you're making them. I have been a software engineer for over 25 years, and now I run a team of software engineers. And these are mistakes which I have made at one time or another. Whatever your reason for learning to code, whether it's because it's something you've always been interested in, or because you've heard about the great salaries on offer for software engineers, making just one of these mistakes could really hold you back from achieving your dream. For our first mistake, let's use an analogy. Imagine you've booked a holiday. One of my favorite countries is Italy. The food, the beaches, the good life. You have heard that learning a language can really make a holiday memorable. But you have just 3 months. Can you learn all of Italian in that time? Of course not. Realistically speaking, you should focus on some areas. How to order food in a restaurant, maybe how to get around, transportation, and how to say a few phrases to the locals. How to fill in a tax return? Well, maybe not. You may be thinking, how is all this relevant to learning to code? Well, learning a programming language is a bit like learning a language in real life. You need to focus on certain areas, and this is the mistake that I think a lot of people make, just trying to learn everything. The way to learn is to get a very basic overall knowledge, and then focus on areas that are relevant to you. For example, you may need to communicate with an API or interact with a database for a particular application that you're developing. So, focus on certain areas. Moving on to our second mistake. Imagine you need a life-saving operation and your doctor says to you, well, I have not done this before, but I've watched a lot of tutorials on YouTube and read a few books. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Maybe time for a second opinion? Research shows that when learning, especially practical skills, you have to take a direct approach. That means make your learning as appropriate to the real situation as possible. So if you need to fly an aircraft, then you need to practice on that type of aircraft. This is also covered in Scott Young's book Ultra Learning, where he explains how he managed to cover 4 years worth of content from an MIT computer science degree in one. So I thoroughly recommend you check that out. Therefore, if you are learning to code, please don't make the mistake of spending a lot of time watching tutorials. Tutorials are good, you follow along, you copy the code, you get some results, but they kind of give you a false sense of security. When I need to code, I need to find out how to do something for a specific situation. Sometimes I might know it already if it's really simple, otherwise you have to do some research, some Googling, and you need to go through this process where you don't have the knowledge and then you do, which can be a bit hard, but you have to go through this process and that's what teaches you to be a good programmer. Let's get to our final mistake. Several years back, I needed to switch technologies. It wasn't that the money I was getting wasn't good. I had a great life. My work in this technology had paid for flying lessons, holidays to New Zealand amongst other places. It's just that I could see the sun was beginning to set on the technology that I had worked up till then. For almost 10 years. I worried that one day I wouldn't have a job and it would be very difficult to get a job because I saw the number of roles was kind of going down. People were moving away from this technology. At the time, I was working as a contract freelancer, so there was nobody was going to pay for me to retrain. It was just something I needed to do by myself. And whether you're not working as a freelancer or not, you have to realize that you take your career, your future into your own hands. Don't depend on someone else. So I started to learn this new technology. I used to have a train ride, and this was quite a while back. So there were no e-readers or Kindle apps at that time. So I used to carry this big computer book on the train and read it. Also, my wife used to work nights, so I would study until quite late when she was working. Finally, I got a role in a team which had both developers of the technology I wanted to learn and the technology I have been working in. And every time an opportunity came up, I'd ask my boss whether I could work in the new technology. Unfortunately, I'd been hired to work in the old technology, so it was kind of difficult because people pigeonhole you, and companies don't want to waste time on you training you when there's somebody else who can do the work quicker. But anyway, nonetheless, I kept asking. I paid out of my own pocket for certifications, and finally a project came up which I could work on. And since then, I've worked in this new technology, and it's formed the basis of my success. The technology is .NET, and I've worked in it for the past 10-12 years. From the time I decided to move from my old technology to .NET, it was probably about 2 years from starting to learn, getting that job, and finally getting a project. And there were times when I thought, well, what's the point of this, and is it ever going to happen? And that brings me to the mistake. You have to look at, when you want to learn something new, as a process rather than a destination. And when you do that, then you sort of accept the little wins, when I got that job, when I got the project, rather than focusing on getting somewhere. And funnily enough, you do get to that place. If you're interested in learning to code or becoming a software engineer, please check out my earlier videos. Otherwise, see you on the next video.